Ladies and gentlemen, you may remember I made a short video establishing why a disappearing wing was not evidence of a faulty hologram projector, but was merely caused by the shadow of World Trade Center 2. Now, I didn't go into detail because I thought I wouldn't have to. Here's a photo of the left wing disappearing against the darker building. Now, here's a photo of the right wing disappearing against the brighter sky. In both images, the left side of the plane is in shadow, and in both images, you can actually still see the wing. It's just a little more difficult. This felt to me very basic. I didn't feel like I needed to elaborate. But other people felt otherwise, very strongly otherwise, and made sure I knew it in my comment section and in my email. So I'd like to answer their questions and concerns in more detail. First, the original video was not meant to say every theory was wrong. It was specifically addressing and refuting one specific theory. Tim Spiker was very active in my comment section and left the following comment. Except the subject of the video is about a little bit more than shadows. It was involved with many more things. Imagine if this was a murder, and the detective went, well, I found this one shell casing, except the bullet went into the wall, and the murder weapon is actually a knife. Now, is the casing relevant to the crime? Partially, but it's not the cause of the crime. Now, this was maybe not his best choice of analogy, as I am a trained and experienced criminal investigator who has assisted with murder investigations. I've never led one, but I've been a part, not of the murder, of the investigation of it. If I, as a detective, came across an apparent murder scene where there was evidence a bullet was fired in the scene and entered a wall, as well as evidence that the murder weapon was a knife, well, there are multiple ways the scene could be interpreted. Perhaps the murderer shot the victim, causing the bullet to go through them into the wall and then stabbed them after the victim was deceased. Well, if that's the case, that might suggest there was a highly emotional component to this crime. Or, what if the gunman broke into a house and then the resident stabbed him in self-defense, and the gunman fired a shot wildly but missed, and the resident fled to the backyard where they collapsed in shock while the gunman bled out? These are two wildly different scenes that require analysis of different aspects of this scene, but both could fit the description of the events that was provided. The ballistics evidence would be sent to a ballistics lab. Blood and tissue might be sent to a forensic DNA lab. The victim would receive an autopsy, but the person doing the autopsy isn't doing the ballistics, and the person doing the ballistics isn't doing the DNA. This isn't television. It doesn't work that way. Sorry, Abby. It just doesn't. Within this analogy, my video about the 9/11 attacks was not meant to be the final investigative report. It was a laboratory return on the analysis of a specific part of that investigation. That's it. I wasn't addressing every single aspect of every single theory. I was addressing one theory. So if you, and many of you did, blasted me with dozens of other theories that weren't relevant to the specific hologram claim I was addressing, that's too bad. Your inability to understand a separate aspect of the 9/11 attacks is not evidence of a hologram. Actual evidence of a hologram is evidence of a hologram. But we already have hologram technology. Look at music concerts. Those holograms are not the same type of hologram that is being theorized by the conspiracy theorists. However, I do appreciate the fact that it is on the topic of holograms. You did better than most. The current hologram technology used in some concerts is just a Pepper's Ghost illusion. A reflective yet transparent material is placed between the audience and the stage, and a projection of the artist is displayed on the material. This is not a 3D hologram, it is a 2D projection. And I suspect people would notice an enormous pane of glass or mylar sheet being moved around Manhattan. The sun was in the southeast, so there wouldn't have been a shadow. I did get some of that wrong in the original video. We'll get back to that. But per suncalc.org, the sun's azimuth was 109 degrees. For the sun to truly be in the southeast, it would have to be 135 degrees. This is much closer to east by southeast, which is 112.5 degrees. If the towers were aligned with the cardinal compass points, this would be enough to directly illuminate the south side of the South Tower, where Flight 175 struck. However, the towers were not aligned with the cardinal compass points, so the sun would have needed to have had an azimuth of approximately 120 degrees to directly illuminate the south side. The sun wouldn't reach this azimuth until 50 minutes later. However, the shadow of the building on Flight 175 would have been pretty small. Smaller than I originally thought. When we compare these two frames from the original video I commented on, we see the wing go from dark to light with a hard delineation here. My initial thought was that the plane approached in the building's shadow, and half of the wing exited that shadow before impact. Do keep in mind, we can still see the outline of the wing, despite it allegedly disappearing. In our email conversations, the original compiler of this footage conveniently ignored that multiple times. So we know that the building shadow didn't cause this, but we can still see that it's there. Why? Well, either the plane was facing east when it collided with the building, which no it wasn't, or the plane had a curved path upon approach and the sun's azimuth would have put the time before sunrise, which obviously it wasn't. I admit that I was wrong to suggest that the building cast this shadow, but I still want to test whether or not it could have been caused by a shadow. And the answer is yes. In a simulation that I created, I used this photograph to match the position of my Boeing 767-200 model to the one in the photo. And if we change our camera position, we see the plane has rolled left. Well, that's odd. Surely it would be difficult to aim your plane at that kind of angle, right? It's almost as if this roll was a last-minute correction. And sure enough, if we roll the plane back to level, the wing is dark. Roll it to the angle before impact, it's light. What? The shadow isn't from the building, it's from the plane. We can even see that in other footage like this. Presumably worried they were too far right of target, the pilot rolls left. The wing, which is clearly visible, can be seen getting lighter and reflecting the sun. Now I'm guessing there's a reason this footage wasn't included in the original video, attempting to insinuate the plane might have been a hologram, because it sure casts some doubts on the theory that the wing disappeared at all by casting a shadow. Again, you can see the wing in the video used by the original video compiler, just like you can see the wing here. But you can't see the wing in all of the videos. Why? Look at these videos. Can you see windows in any of the buildings? No? Well, perhaps low resolution is the culprit, as opposed to faulty holograms. But the original video compiler disagrees, saying Naudet and Luc Courchain footage are HD footage showing the right wing disappearing and reappearing, Naudet, and Courchain had the left wing mainly disappearing. Stop ignoring this evidence. Really hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm so sorry if I'm not. Well, thank you for admitting different wings are difficult to see from different angles. I don't know how your hologram theory accounts for that, but I don't suspect you'll be able to answer, so I'll move right along. The original video compiler seems to believe Courchain filmed this video with a Betacam SP. First, no. Betacam SP is the type of cassette the camera records to. Second, also no. I'm thinking this is a BVV5 video cassette recorder docked into a BVP550. I don't know where he's getting the info that this 20 to 30 pound camcorder was what Courchain was using, but in an interview conducted by Radio Canada 2 days later, it is stated that he took a small camera and began to film. That's not a small camera. But if we assume that was the camera Courchain used, it's not HD. See, HD is generally accepted these days to mean the video has at least 720 vertical pixels. However, Betacam SP had a display resolution of 640 by 480. That's not HD. It's also usually interlaced. What's interlaced? I'm glad you asked. At the time this footage was filmed, CRTs were the common television type. The average refresh rate was around 60 frames per second, but broadcasting 60 frames per second ate up a lot of bandwidth. So instead, footage was recorded a half image at a time and broadcast a half image at a time. Alternate which half and your brain doesn't really know the difference. The quality does go down and movement looks a little funky and it's confusing conspiracy theorists 2 decades later, but it's great for reducing storage and bandwidth requirements. But the Courchain footage isn't interlaced. What am I talking about? Well, the archival footage isn't from Radio Canada, but that's not the original footage. When I first looked into the Courchain footage, I saw versions that were interlaced, and I wanted to find out where that version was coming from, because why would you take footage that isn't interlaced and then make it look interlaced, or make it actually interlaced? Doesn't really make sense, right? Got to get to the bottom of it. On the left of one of the videos I found, we see the source is listed as Framepool. I went to Framepool to search the stock footage archive, typed in 9/11, and found this 9/11 raw footage uploaded by Courchain, the same name used for Courchain's official website. And when we look at other videos uploaded by the same person, they show the same interlacing. We also notice it is not only wider than the footage that the original video compiler used, it is 27 minutes and 18 seconds long. This is the original footage, uploaded by Courchain, which incidentally is the name of Courchain's official website. I feel like there's some strong evidence to this theory that this is the original footage. But it gets better. The color errors that we see in the Radio Canada archival footage isn't present in what I believe is the actual original footage, and is suggestive of 2 possibilities. Courchaine either drove from New York to Montreal, which is a 6-hour trip, and got the interview set up for September 13th, 2001, or perhaps he contacted Radio Canada, told him that he had some footage for them, and then flew to Montreal on the 13th, which was when the airport started to reopen. Radio Canada would have made a copy of the footage and, I suspect, de-interlace it so that the broadcast didn't have it interlaced twice, because that would look awful, and because they were in a rush, maybe the colors weren't copied correctly and they didn't have time to fix it. Video cassette tapes are weird like that and prone to these kind of things. I remember having these exact issues using camcorders as a kid, and I never once thought it was because I was living in a holographic simulation or some such nonsense, but now maybe I'm wrong. Oh. Nope, that's real. Nope, I just ruined that audio. But now that I'm looking at it, this interlacing does look a lot like a hologram from Star Wars. You know what? Let's talk about that. Star Wars is, and say it with me, a fictional movie. These holograms in Star Wars aren't real, but they are based in reality. The lines on this fictional hologram are meant to look like scan lines on a CRT. This flickering bar that's going up, that's meant to look like a camera filming a CRT monitor that has a refresh rate that's different from the camera's frame rate. These Star Wars holograms represent the broadcast technology of the day in 1977. These lines aren't futuristic hologram technology, they're 1977 broadcast technology. And before I move on, Star Wars isn't real. Okay. Regarding the camera Naudet used, it was allegedly a Sony DSR PD-150, which also records interlaced footage, which, again, isn't HD. Regardless of whether or not the footage was de-interlaced or upscaled, you can see the wing the entire time in the footage. Wow. I know I addressed it earlier, but I anticipate a bunch of comments and possibly emails trying to say it's a hologram because of 30 unrelated links that contain unrelated information. Stop it. All I'm doing is establishing the planes weren't holograms. I'm not explaining thermal expansion of steel in this video. I'm not explaining impact force transfer. I'm explaining cameras and lighting. Your article, written by someone who doesn't understand that fire is hot, is not evidence of a hologram. Even if you had an article proving beyond any doubt that George W. Bush is a lizard person who orchestrated all of this, that would not be evidence of a hologram. It would be evidence of lizard people orchestrating the attacks of 9/11. You would need separate evidence to establish the hologram angle, which you do not have now that I've made this video. I hope this makes sense, and I will not be kind in the comments section. Fair warning. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you didn't like it, dislike button's right there. Subscribe for more nonsense like this. And ladies and gentlemen, until the next time, be good, stay safe.